I've been in the weeds this week drafting a response to Udio's motion to dismiss. As you guys know, we're at war right now against Suno and Udio. And what was wild, I can't talk about this too much, but Udio is essentially throwing its users under the bus. We'll come back to this. But I did see that Rick Beato put out a video, "The AI music race is over." The way the video started out was to essentially compare Suno and Udio and to say, well, in the race to succeed between all these different AI platforms, obviously, Suno and Udio being the biggest. First to market, doing whatever they want. And so he looked at the numbers. Now, what he focused on were the reviews. He's like, well, with Suno has 141,000 reviews from its customers versus Udio, which only has 1.2 thousand reviews. Obviously, that is quite the difference. But the way I also looked at it is just in the downloads, right? The downloads is 10 million for Suno. There's 1 million for Udio. But either way, the point just being that with these AI companies, there are a lot of users. And the thing that stood out to me in his video is, well, let me just have him speak for himself.
So why is Suno being adopted more than Udio? Well, I don't know. Maybe it's that it's way easier to use, way easier to create a song. Everyone that I know that's using AI, and I'm talking professional songwriters all over the place, have admitted to me privately and some on camera that they're using Suno. They just are. They're also using Claude, they're using Gemini, they're using ChatGPT, but for music creation, for ideas, for production, for melody ideas to help them complete songs. And it's not just professional musicians, it's people like me and you that are using it. My main use of it is on here to just demonstrate the features and make people aware of how these particular platforms are progressing. But a lot of people that I know that have written songs their whole lives but couldn't ever get in a studio to demo them, they're taking their songwriter demos where they're just playing acoustic guitar and singing, they're putting it in there, and they're creating what sound like professional arrangements with a professional singer.
Okay. So I went to the comments section, and what stood out to me was just how alarmed independent music creators were. What Rick is essentially talking about is just how this has become very normalized in the music creation process. One person saying, so now we need an organic section at the record store too. Another person saying, to all those who have the terrible feeling that the world as we know it is ending, nothing can take away the deep joy and enjoyment you get from listening to, making, or playing the music you love. Someone else saying, I still don't think we should be normalizing this slop. It's like the person that goes to the store, buys a cake, and brings it to the party saying it's homemade. Besides, it's become more about the money than the joy of creation. And lastly, I'm a Nashville writer-producer. I'm resisting Suno for as long as humanly possible. At least from what I saw, the far majority of the comments were from independent music creators who just had a little bit of a hard time with the increase of use of these platforms in the song making process. And it's something that I've talked about, right? So in the general process of the AI creators or prompters who just put in words versus someone who picks up an instrument, right? We see, for example, Rick's background. He has many guitars. And so just seeing that ultimately, and even here we had a user or a follower say, I guess all that's left is to make a personal, conscious, unwavering commitment to not be a part of the death of music. And I'm curious, at least for our community here, what you guys think about that. Additionally, what I have seen is that, well, it's like, okay, if it's all over, right? AI music is here to stay, and of course, in just the volume game. There is no keeping up with AI music. The last that we heard from Suno is generating 7 million new tracks every single day. So again, in the volume game, human authors, human creators are not able to keep up with that. And so generally, is the solution here that AI basically just needs its own platforms? Is it that it needs its own distribution so that it doesn't take from the royalties? Because, you know, it's a pool. That's it. Everyone dumps into the same Spotify. It's the same pool. And you're going to get paid out based on everything that is in there. And so the dilution is a real thing. How you feel about it is up to you, but it is a real thing. So is the solution, there needs to be different charts, right? Because now we're hearing AI songs getting on the radio. We're seeing AI songs on the charts. And to the degree across the board, when you have a Spotify, you know, what about the disclosure piece? Because what I do continue to hear is that from just consumers, not the artists, right? Not creators, but from the consumer standpoint, that a lot of people are upset when they feel like they were duped. They feel like they were misled because they thought something was something from a person, and they go to find that person and they find out it's just AI. Going back to Rick's video.
At the end of September, Suno unveiled a new feature called Hooks. What Hooks is, it's an AI music platform that lets users pair a short video clip with a Suno song to create and share music-focused content. It's designed to help musicians tell stories, promote their music, and connect with fans, similar to platforms like TikTok. You know, I actually just showed Hooks to my daughter, Layla, and she's like, yeah, it's like TikTok, except boring.
Well, and apparently this new feature on Suno might be getting Suno sued yet again. This time it's going to be from the AI remix platform Hook. All right, this is from Music Business Worldwide. AI remix startup Hook claims Suno's Create Hook feature mirrors its identity and functionality, right? So trademarks, Hook Music, an AI-powered music remixing and mashup app, which, P.S., if you guys remember, we talked about this some months ago because music distributor 2Lost, when we were kind of poking around and just seeing how things were happening, the 2Lost platform had been distributing to Hook for people's music. And the reason why that mattered is because most people, when they distribute through a music distributor, they think that their music is going to Spotify and other streaming platforms. And so if a music distributor is sending your stuff to be remixed by a different platform, that's just something that needs to be properly disclosed. And so in the disclosure kind of thing, we actually ended up having a conversation with 2Lost and Hook separately, which was great. I appreciated that they had the conversation. And in fact, 2Lost ended up making updates to its platform in its kind of commitment for transparency and serving independent creators, which was great. All right, so claims Suno's new Create Hook, right? So obviously similar phrasing there, same word, tool closely mirrors its brand identity and core product offering. All right, so the CEO, backed by investors, the platform raised $3 million in March, bringing in a total funding of $6 million. The company's investors also include, all right, we see some of the similar names that we see come up from time to time. All right, Hook said in a blog post that it has, quote, spent years building the legal, technical, and creative infrastructure for a fan-first, remix-driven ecosystem. AKA, Suno stepped in, was like, this is a great idea, and is arguably trying to rip off the IP as well as the actual technology. Now, in IP land, this is where it gets really difficult. For technology companies, they have to try to essentially copy each other in this industry. You know, social media platforms are one of the best examples. How we had certain social media platforms essentially copy Snapchat, and then there was a story feature, and then all these other platforms started to copy that. And in fact, I was just reading that Spotify is being pressured to try to mirror the Netflix experience. So in any case, you see when these companies are essentially having to keep up with what is trendy, but equally you have rights in the technology that you have invested in. And very importantly, you have the right to your name that you have launched and built and raised millions of dollars in your effort to protect it. It added, we pioneered a patent pending STEM-level AI attribution system, secured extensive licensing frameworks with major rights holders, and built a platform that unites AI creativity with transparent rights management and monetization for the social music experience. So I'm curious to see whether Hook is actually going to take legal action against Suno, because what we are seeing with, you know, a lot of these companies is that they are just coming back to the table, right? Major labels so far, but they're coming back and they're like, look, we just want a piece of the pie. We want to be a part of this. And that's a different kind of infringement, right? What we're doing with our class action lawsuits, what the major labels were doing, it was about something that was taken that should have been paid for, that should have been licensed, that should have received credit or given credit to the rights holders. In this case, it's a very different kind of thing. And this is more of the stuff that we have dealt with coming up on 12 years in the IP space. So in any case, the title of Rick's video, the AI music race is over, and his opinion just that Suno has dominated and beat out everyone else. Well, there are other competitors that are popping on the scene. We saw Clay, and there are more that are building, but I don't know. Suno is, to Rick's point, far ahead, but there still are major problems. You know, we talked about 11 Labs and how 11 Labs is taking efforts and steps to get proper licensing for all the music that is used to train the AI. This is the biggest thing that you guys have to remember if you are using AI. To the extent you use it in any kind of way in your process, especially these AI music platforms, is that not a single one of these AI platforms is going to guarantee your music contains fully cleared music. So meaning your output contains fully cleared music. And so what we are seeing, including this artist, Jorja Smith, who has right now, she has 11 million monthly listeners on Spotify. Her and her label, they're demanding a share of royalties because this viral AI track, I Run, sounds a whole lot like her music. And so that opens up this entire other discussion and problem with the outputs that you guys have. And these AI companies are going to pay your legal bills when you get sued, when someone comes after your thing that becomes successful because it just so happens to contain someone else's voice, someone else's music. So it's an ongoing discussion, but let me know what you guys think. Drop a comment down below. I'm top music attorney, Miss Krystle.